Hello everyone! I hope you are enjoying SQL Bits, the greatest data show. Thanks for coming to my session. Let's play with the date file and time intelligence in Power BI. My name is Ana Maria Visbeyork. I'm Business Intelligence Consultant, Microsoft Partner in Power BI, Microsoft Data Platform MVP, and LinkedIn Learning Trainer. You can find me at Power BI Spain User Group or Power Platform Madrid Spain Meetup. I received the Emerald Award from Dynamics Communities last year. Okay, for this session we will see date column in Power Query. We will see different approach for working with a date type column. And then time intelligence with DAX and date columns, time intelligence, visuals, and machine learning all together in Power BI. Okay, let's start. Let's see how to work with date column in Power Query. If we are talking about data quality and data type column, we can see different format. If we are working with any of these cases, no problem. Power Query is smart enough and it's really straightforward to change from text to date. But if we are working with this kind of format, we have a problem because we need to think about regional settings and to change the ground format we have here. Let's see the demo. Here I have the demo. Here we have the columns. For the first one we have the USA format. That means that here we have the month, then the day, and then the year. In Spain the format is different. By first we need the day, then the month, and then the year. That means if I change to a date column, we will get some errors. Okay, there's some errors. So the solution here is to change data type, but taking in account the local value for the source of data. So I need to indicate that I want to convert from text to a date. This is the first parameter here, date, and the second will be USA, United States, English format. At the end, we have the correct format because Power Query knows my settings and just need to understand which settings are from the source. And here we have the information in the Power Query formula bar. Okay, then what about this column? There's a different approach for changing the values for obtaining the date type for this column. Or we can add columns by examples from selection. That means we will tell to Power Query which will be the patterns for the columns. For example, here I will type the first one and the second one, and this will be enough. Power Query understand the problem and show me the formula here. Okay, here we have the columns. Change type because it's the format is correct. Remove the other columns and rename. And now we have the applied steps and 2 columns ready for working with. I want to show you a really simplified business case I solved using the solution presented by Lars in his blog. He was writing in German, but was really easy to understand. Okay, we have a date column here and a total running value, and we need to figure out the value for each of the dates. The idea here is very simple. We need to add 2 index columns, one from 0 and one from 1. Starting on 0, starting on 1. Then, doing a self-merge query. The same query, merging, and at the end we have the running value and the 1 value for the second query, and now we are able to just obtain the difference between the values. And now we have the date, the running value, and the real amount. This is a business case that I was solving with this approach. Okay, let's talk about calendar table in Power Query. Calendar table is a table with just a 1 date column, without duplicates, without gaps, just a calendar. There are several approaches you can find in community blogs. Here we have a good way to accomplish this. But first, we need to define the query parameters, start date and end date. Then we will create a list from the start till the end, and with this duration we are talking about just increment the date value. Here we have date, day, hour, minutes and seconds. Then if we invoke this function depending on the values we define for start and end date, we will see the list and we are able to convert the list into a table. Let's see the Power Query here. We have my calendar function here. Here is the advanced editor code. We can see the parameters, list, and the increment. Okay, now we can invoke, for example, from the 1st of the 22 till December. Okay, we can invoke and we will obtain the list. From list tools we are able to convert into a table, doing nothing more. And now we have a table with the columns. We're able to convert to a date column and, for example, to change the value. Now we have a table. From these 1 columns we are able to add several columns here from all of these options, from columns for year, for month, quarter, week, and days. In this case, for example, let's add columns from the year, then add columns from the name of month, etc. Here I have my calendar table, and here we have all the steps. Okay, so we've created calendar table, we've adding a business logic from a date column for creating all of these steps, and then we are able to see the calendar table ready. Okay, if we work with the age options here, we are able to see the difference between the date and today. That means the value of 0 here is today, the current day we are living. And the positive values here represent the past, and the negative values represent the future. The age function returns a duration type column. That means days, hours, minutes, and seconds. Or, if we want to obtain the value for today, we also can create a query using M code and just return the value for daytime local noun. This value will return, this expression will return the value for today. Here we have, this is the today, day I'm living today. Okay. Okay, let's exploring weeks. If we are looking at the options we have for Power Query Editor, we have options for week of year, week of month, start of week, end of week. But what about we need the information about the current week, the previous end week? We have no options from the menus, but M language is our friend. M language is plenty of functions, and they're much more than the options that we can see from the menu. Let's see how we can get these M language options. Okay, let's go into the demo again. Okay, we are able to create a new source, blank query, and here just type chart. This will return a list of all the connectors and also all the M functions integrated. We are able to convert into a table, and now we have a table with 2 columns. We can to filter, for example, by week, and now we have an interesting list of options. We have, for example, current week, we have, for example, its previous week, previous end weeks, several here options. If we want to work with these options, for example, for current weeks, we are able to select here the blank point and to see the function, to see the explanation of the function. And if we want to work with these options, this option will return true or false for each day, depending on the day is in current week or not. So we can right click and add as new query. Add as new query. This will be my function. I will name as function demo current week. And if we want to define or to obtain if each day is in this current week, we can go to any table, any query where we have a date column, and using the menu add column from general group, invoke column functions, custom function, and here we are able to use function demo current week. From function demo current week, I'm able to see is current week, and we will use as parameter the date time column. Okay, and now we are able to see, for example, I will look here because I have less values here. Sorry, here today is, this is the date for, oh sorry, okay, this is the date for today, and now we have, this is the day for today, and this is the values here. Current week is okay, all the values for the current week, and the rest of the dates return false. So we are using the function that we found in the list of M functions in Power Query. So here we have the steps for the new query, then the steps for the looking at the functions and add the function as a new query, rename, and then here are the steps for using this new custom function for defining the value for my current week. So M language is our friend. When we finish to work with Power Query, we have a lot of work to do using DAX language in Power BI. DAX language is the analytical engine in tabular models. It's the expression language used for the creation of calculated columns, measures, and calculated tables. Let's solve some time intelligence requirements with DAX. We need a calendar table. As we saw before, calendar table could be created using Power Query. But we have also the chance of creating calendar table using DAX. calendar auto, or calendar function defining boundaries for the first date and the last date, as we did in Power Query. Also, we are able to define dynamically the values depending on the functions, for example, today and year and so on. Or we're able to create a calendar table and at the same time some columns. So we are adding attributes the same as we did using Power Query. I prefer to create calendar table from Power Query, but here for the demo I want to show you that we are able to do also using DAX. There's more options here, for example, combining generates and row functions with DAX. At the end, there's tons of possibilities, and we are able to create a calendar table with DAX. Do not lose the chance to take a look at the calendar template from SQL BI, because there's a lot of DAX code, really useful for learning DAX and to see the different approach to create columns. Okay, why we need this kind of columns? We need this kind of calendar table because if we want to create a time-based analysis, we need this kind of table without gaps, without duplicate values, just a unique values for each rows and all the days. A calendar. So we can provide comparison between one period of time to another using the DAX functions. For example, we have date at, year functions also, and we can combine functions, we can combine variables, expressions, and quick measures. There's several quick measures prepared, and I want to say you that quick measures is a really good starting point also for learning DAX. Okay, here we have the values for the current year and the last one. You can see the current value and the last one. If we are looking at this function, depending on the function we are working with, we are, for example, able also to see the values for this quarter and the quarter of the last year. Because of the function here, we are seeing that we are defining -1, so the last one, and at the year level. Okay. If we need to define different points for comparing values, there's a really good solution in Power BI. What if functionality? For example, here I'm looking at the values for the last month, just 1 month. It's okay, this formula -1 and month level. But what about if I need to see the values for the last 2 months, or I need to move 2 months to the past, 3 months to the past. So what if parameters is the great functionality. We are able to create a parameter, in this case, for example, from -12 to 12, increment by 1, and the generate series function here will be the clue, because this function will create a table. This is DAX function that creates a table. Table month, because my parameter is called month. And here we have the calculated columns from -12 to 12 and month value. Month value will be a metric, will be a measure. This measure will obtain the values from this one, the slicer created by the same what if functionality. Let's see the demo. Okay, for example, here we have here the value for each of the month. Here we have the sum for the last 2 months. So here the first one is the same. Here we have the sum of these two. Here we have the sum of these two. Then we have a value not for the last one, and the value depending on the slicer. Okay, it's the same because we have the slicer at -1. For example, -3. Now we have for April the value from January. And it's the same here because we are using the same parameter created using the what if parameter option from here. The same parameter we are using in 2 cases. Let's see. Here we have our values. Sum last two months. Here we have a fixed value, -2. But if we are using sum n months, now we are using the value returned by what if functionality. It's a great functionality. There are tons of options here for working together with what if functionality, date functions, date columns, calendar tables, etc. If we create a calendar table, it's really important to create the relationship between the calendar tables and the same, the most important table, the main table, the fact table of our model. In this case, we have 2 calendar tables because this is our calendar tables from Power Query, and this one calendar table is the calendar tables I've created using DAX, just for showing you that we are able to create using DAX. We don't need 2 calendar tables here, but I will just want to show you that it's easy to create calendar table using DAX. Okay, let's see, for example, we are able to work with DAX time intelligence functions and calendar table from defining the values taking into account dynamics ranges. For example, dates between, dates in period, and we are able to use as the parameters functions like blank, like today, like year, month, and so on. So there's tons of options here using DAX. And using these combinations of functions, we're able to obtain this kind of charts. In this case, we are looking at a different approach. In this case, for example, until today is from the beginning of my data till today. But today, I'm leaving the September 14, okay? Then we have last calendar month, that means August. Then last month means from today, the last one month. So here we will have all the values, and then next month. So let's go into the demo for showing you the data. Okay, here we have, you can see until today, it's until today, the value for today. Then last calendar month, from the 1st to the end of August. Okay, last month, if we are today on 13, so will be from 14 of August till yesterday. Yes, and next month will be from September, from today till the following month. All together represent this kind of charts. It's beautiful, it's easy to understand the difference of the values, and depending on the situation will be very useful to work with all the DAX functions. Here we have all the DAX functions for last calendar, last month, next month, until today, all of these functions using DAX. There is a scenario when we need to work with more than one column date in the same table. If we have more than one columns, we have more than one relationship, but just one of these relationship is active. Instead of changing the active to an active or changing the model, we will use DAX. DAX is the best friend because DAX will allow us to protect the model and to create the solution using use relationship function of DAX. In this case, we will work with order quantity. Order quantity will be the measure that will use the relationship between order date and date. And we will create a different measure here using calculate, the most important function of DAX, and use relationship for indicate the values for calendar and orders. Let's see the demo, because here we have the model. We have here we have the model. Here we have two calendar relation between order date and between ship date and date. One active, one non-active. And if we are working With DAX, we are able to obtain this kind of solution. In this case, the solution will be depend on the requirements. If we need, for example, to compare the values using just one calendar column for the table or for the axis in this line chart, in this case, we need to work with DAX. But we have another case. If we are working with the same situation, we need to work with more than one date, we are able to create additional calendar table. And with this additional calendar table, we will be ready for compare the values, creating just one measure. Calendar table, the additional, it's really easy to create using DAX, of course. And now we will able to compare the values. In this case, for example, we will see that if we have two tables, order date and ship date, we will be ready for comparing. For example, if I'm looking to the June for order date, I can I can realize that these orders were shipped on June, July, and October. And if I'm looking to October or July, I'm ready here for seeing that the orders shipped on July come from June and July. And in this case, we are working with two tables. This is our model, and we have ship calendars and calendar, just one metric, order quantity, and two tables. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the visualization, how we can use the date column, looking at the report, looking at the visualization. We are able to create the play axis for the scatter chart using the date column. Here is an option. Also, we are able to filter by a relative days. If we are looking at the days, we are able to use the slicer on the date column, but looking at the different range of dates, depending on the options last, next, this, or the options days, weeks, month, or years. Okay, let's see. Here we have the samples. Okay. Here we have the charts. Okay. No, relative days. Okay. Okay. We are looking at last 2 months. That means we are looking at until today, last calendar month, last month. But if we are looking to the last 1 month, now we will see just last month. But if we are looking to the last calendar month, the results will be different. So depending on this slicer, looking at date column but using relative date, give us tons of possibilities for the analysis. We need to have a date column here for working with relative filter here. Using a date column for a line chart, we're able to obtain two more analytics values here, trend line and forecast. We need the line chart and work with analytics panel here. Okay, let's see. For example, here we have a line chart analytics here, and if we are working with a date column, we have trend line and forecast, and these values will depend on the rest of the filters we are working with. So it's dynamically defined the trend and the forecast. We are able to see the values if we are using the show as table. More options, show as a table. Now we can see the values at the end of the data. We can see the values for the forecast, confidence high bound and low bound of confidence, these values. It's great because date column gives us this opportunity. Okay, if we are looking at this kind of solution, here we have an extra chance. If we are using, for example, time brush, custom visuals are from Microsoft or community, and for example we are able here to look at more zoomed period of time here, and we are able to see the values depending on the selection we did here with a custom value. Okay, trend and forecast using custom visuals, great. And last but not least, analyze. That means if we have a date column, we are able to obtain very interesting analysis. Let's see. We are going to the demo. Okay, analyze by date. If we are looking to this chart, it seems to our work is great from the last year, but Power BI provides us this analysis explain the increase from one year to another year. Here we have the result of running machine learning algorithm, and then we are able to see, for example, this the first one is a waterfall chart, and here we have the information for the significant increment of NA color, and we have fewer values from for the red colors. So for this chart seems to be everything is okay, but here we are able to see that something is not so good. Okay, then we have the scatter chart. The scatter chart shows also the same problem from the red color. We have here the NI and the different colors here because it shows all the colors. The scatter, the waterfall chart just shows the most important, the 5 most important colors. Then we have the 100 stacked column chart, and here again we are able to see the significant increment of NA. And the last one will be the ribbon chart, and the ribbon chart shows us all the values for both years and the ranking and the difference of the ranking of the colors. It's a really good chart. And if we like, if we want to add this chart, we can select this button, and now we have the chart add to our here report. It's amazing. So my final ideas for you in this session are: date columns require special and careful treatment in Power Query. We need to look very carefully at these kind of columns. Modeling actions on dates can and should be managed in the query as much as possible. The attributes, the solutions, the additional attributes using M language. It's really important because there's a lot of functionality that we can use inside the Power Query editor. A calendar table is required for time intelligence, in business intelligence in Power BI. We can create using DAX or Power Query. My preferred option is Power Query because I can extend the date calendar table with a lot of attributes. DAX allows us to manage the time intelligence business logic because we have tons of functions for comparison, for running value, for defining year to day, month to day, for dates in period, dates between, tons of functions there. And native and user Power BI charts are useful for do the analysis over dates. Several options, several charts. R charts also are really useful here for looking at the data through the visuals, charts, and graph. That's all. Happy timing. Thank you very much for coming to my session. I hope you will still enjoying the SQL Bits, the greatest data show. Thank you very much. Goodbye.